I keep forgetting to do that. Right, we're now recording. And also talk about the IDBF announcement, which has been shared with you, and discussed it with Michelle the other day, just discussed it with Nikki as well. Now, we've got some ideas, some possible solutions. What I'm really interested in is not us dictating anything. It's actually what you want to do. But let me just deal with the technical aspect first. What is the point of the open question to everybody, really? What's the point of having a one-to-one program? Not a silly question.
It's more focus to each individual.
Right.
You can stand and say timing, top arm straight, kick back at the back. Some people are perhaps doing that, but missing something else.
Right. Okay. So there's an individual focus to it. Yeah. Okay.
Focus on what your needs are.
So that's one point to it. What's another point?
Well, you're all trying to have uniformity of the stroke, and the only way that you can do that is to give individual feedback on people's stroke,
right,
on what exactly it is that they need to do in order to try and get the perfect stroke.
Right, or approach that. I mean, I've been doing it 35 years, paddling different boats. So I've got nothing like a perfect stroke, but I'm sort of getting along the line. I'm further than I was 35 years ago. Okay.
But what I mean by perfect stroke is the stroke that the coach, captain, whatever, wants you to have.
Yeah.
So whatever that may be, that's why it's kind of.
Yeah, and there's hopefully whoever the coach is, and I'm sure this is, well, I know this is the case here, there's going to be some rationale behind it. So it's not just some random set of body movements and we're going to call that a stroke. So that's the purpose of it from the coaching perspective. But what's the purpose of the one-to-one program from the paddlers or the athletes perspective?
It targets our individual weaknesses and helps improve our strength.
Okay, that's a good exam answer. But what's the nub of it? What is the crux of it? What's the point of it? So
well, you want to have the fastest boat that you could possibly have, and yes. So that's what it's all about. It's giving individual feedback to try and make sure that everybody is doing what the coach believes is going to make the fastest boat.
Okay. I'm looking for a really simplified version of this. Yes, Catherine, what is the value of a one-to-one training program to you?
Motivation, because
yes,
it's giving me certain goals, like so personalization.
Yeah. Like, so give me a goal, any goal that you do what?
Are we because it doesn't have to be just on the boat. I have personal goals with Nikki as well, to improve your fitness and weight, and so that. But personally, on the boat training, mine I've noticed on the picture is the bringing the paddle up high.
Right. So what happens to your paddling? Does it get worse?
No, it's going to improve. It's
going to improve. So that's it. That's the point. The whole point of it is not what we say, it's what it means to you. It's you, the paddlers, you improve. And it sounds stupid to say, but time and time again, myself, Nikki, other coaches will be saying, I'll pick on Paul because Paul's sitting there. Paul, you need to get your arm up. Paul, you need to sit up straight. You need to do this. Next week, Paul, you need to do this. And then a month later, Paul, you need to do this. And Paul says, yeah, I know, I'm always doing that. How many times do you think, and I'm sure you've seen this in clubs where you'll sit there and we end up keep reminding people of the same technical issues. Does that sound anything like familiar to any dragon boat you've ever sat in? Yeah?
Yeah.
Why is that? When you think about it, a highly paid coach like Nikki and me, you're paying thousands. Well, you're paying nothing actually, but you might be paying thousands of dirham, dollars, euros to get these pearls of what we hope is wisdom, and yet it doesn't play, it doesn't work in terms of we point out these great things and people don't do them, people don't pick them up.
But it doesn't, but it will work some of the time. It's all about muscle memory. So the more that you do something, the more you will do it naturally. But when you get tired, you will fall back into bad habits. So it's not that you haven't learned something, and it's not that you're taking notice. It's just under pressure or when you're tired, you might not necessarily do it, which is why you have to have the reminders.
Okay, but absolutely. But very often you'll have people who you're reminding time and time again, and sometimes year after year.
I think it's down to
Yes.
how being receptive as an individual, because
Right.
we're all trying to improve together. We've all got a goal to try and get into the GB team to go and compete. So we're all receptive to the feedback. We're willing to change. We're willing to try harder. We're willing to improve. You've got people who go to teams for the social aspect. So you can tell them and tell them and tell them, but if they're not willing to change, they're not willing to change.
This is certainly, before I bring Heidi May in, I'm not saying this as a criticism of anybody. What I'm saying is, I'm wondering how we get the best out of our one-to-one program, how we get it most appealing, and how we get more people to buy into it and realize it's not just an opportunity for the coach to criticize, it's an opportunity for the paddler to improve. That's it. That's the only, frankly, that's the only, because if that doesn't happen and we don't improve as a unit, as a team, as a group, then any other goal is going to drop a little bit short. Heidi May, you were going to say.
Well, oh, I forgot what you were talking about there. But first of all, I mean, certainly for me, you've totally got my buy-in for a one-to-one. I'm kind of curious as to whether you're feeling resistance about the one-to-one program. And I mean, it's really, to reiterate what Chrissy said, you know, we're all super committed, super keen, and absolutely open to being the best that we can be. And you know, for me, that would be the benefit of working with Nikki, would be, you know, there's only so much, as this has been said, there's only so much that a coach can say generally on a boat. And, you know, and some people, I mean, it is frustrating. You say the same thing and they don't react. And I think sometimes they're doing the best that they can, and that's, it's just not gonna, they're not gonna be able to do it. They haven't got that ability to transfer what's being articulated to them into a kind of physical movement, and that's just the limit. But I'd like to think we're all at the standard and have the ability to adapt to whatever's said to us. But I think the benefit of a one-to-one is, you know, Nikki said something to me on the boat the other day, I can't remember what it was now, but she said it in a different way, and that was the light bulb moment. And I think that's the benefit of coming together. Nikki can say things in a way, in a different way to each and every one of us, depending on how we learn and adapt best. I think I've just repeated what everybody said, but
yeah, so I'm not saying this because I think there's any resistance. What I'm actually trying to do is maximize the whole thing, because as we go further down the line today, I'm minded to sort of move more towards emphasizing the one-to-one aspect of it and getting you to be, really, it's an overused term, by far the best paddler that you can possibly be. And the reason being, and I'm going to jump back into technique in a little while, but let me just deal with this now while I'm at this point. The problem with the IDBF decision, and I've sort of had this conversation with both Nikki and Michelle, is understandably, with all the uncertainties and all that sort of business, then the IDBF have kicked the can down the road. You know, of course they have. They have no option but to do that. And everyone with the best will in the world must realise that if we're talking about having a go, no-go decision in the 31st of August, then there's a very, very realistic prospect, maybe more than 50%, that this thing's not going to happen at all. Now, what's fairly unique about the bunch in Dubai is you're highly motivated, and you probably had this conversation amongst yourselves anyway. So the conversation I've just had with Nikki in the last half an hour is not how do we keep people motivated, but how do we make sure that the time we spend together between now and the 31st of July gets the best benefit for everybody. Because if we start talking, if we say the event in January or the World Championships may take place, may not take place. You probably know this, Heidi May, but about 20 years ago, I read a book called 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Just reread it again for something else. And it's stood the test of time. It's 30-year-old now. And one of the key principles is begin with the end in mind. So you think about it, well, I've got now in December or in November, I'm doing the World Championships, and you basically compartmentalize, periodize your training or whatever between now and then. You say, I'm going to do this, this, and this, and we're going to prepare for something. Because here we are, kicking the can down the road, and we don't know what the end is. We hope it's the World Championships, but it may not be. What we do know is there's a decision on the 31st of July. So what I was discussing was what we aim to achieve by the 31st of July, which will either take it on in a different direction in terms of a group of people who happen to have British passports, go to a World Championship, go to another competition, stay together as a Britannia type formation, which I'll talk about in fact, Britannia is a group in the UK who are British athletes, ladies they are, Senior A, Senior B, and they join together every now and again. They paddle with their own clubs and they come together and they go and do a competition. Last year they went to Cyprus, year before they went to somewhere else. But it's a GB formation, but hasn't got all the BS that's involved with the politics of GB. And there's a lot of that, yeah, which my job and Michelle's job is to shield you from, so you can concentrate on the paddling, but there is a lot of it. So there's that. But yeah, we know the 31st of July is coming. So how do we maximize your time? And so you get most benefit for the training you're doing together. So by that date, we can either springboard towards GB, which is the aspiration, or we go in a different direction, or you stop. That's up to you. My suspicion is you'll go on to something. But since that's the known quantity, how do we maximize that time? So that's really what I'm getting at. So what are your thoughts on that? Do you think that's a sensible approach, or do you think we should be saying, no, let's go for the World Championships whenever it is?
Well, I think back to what you said about you plan your training accordingly with your end goal in mind. The problem is, like you say, it's a shifting feast at this moment in time. Yeah. Now, let's just say that at the end of July, they say, let's go ahead. So you would then, I think up to that point, we continue doing what we're doing. I mean, you know, Nikki's brilliant. I think everybody's improving individually. I think there's still some issues sometimes on the boat as a group, but we're working towards that. But Nikki's a brilliant coach to be able to do that. And I think we're all benefiting, even for our own clubs.
Yep.
So there's a lot of benefit I think people are getting. And I think everybody would, speaking for everybody now, but I think everybody would want to continue on the same vein up to the 31st of July. I think it may well be that, you know, we need to probably look at some kind of training in race mode to see how fast we are. So not just the training, but actually do some kind of race mode training. And if at the point we get to 31st of July and it goes ahead in November, we can start to switch into race mode training, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
so
no, absolutely. When I say I'm concerned, it's the wrong term. I'm not concerned. What I'm concerned to do is to make sure that you get the best benefit out of the time over the next 2, 3, 4 months. That's what but I'm not concerned in terms of doom and gloom. I really want to make sure that you get the best benefit if you're going to put, as are continuing to put the effort in. That's what I'm getting at. But you clearly don't want to wait till the 30th. Yeah, stop. You're not going to stop. But I don't want a group stopping and then saying, well, let's make a decision 31st of July. You've lost 4 months.
Yeah.
That's what I'm interested rather than concerned with. What any other thoughts on that?
Well, for me,
continue as we are. Sorry, I just going to continue as we are, and then once a decision is made on the 31st of July, then we're in a position to make a decision then for ourselves. But for me personally, and I think most people would want to continue training as a group.
Yeah. Ideally, the end goal is still the Worlds, whether that's sort of scheduled or even delayed. But in the meantime, if there is other events that you can train for as practice, if that's what I mean, because I think as a team, it'll be just a shame to turn around and say, oh no, we put all this practice in, the Worlds are not happening in November, we're going to stop. ideally the end goal then should be, whether it's next year, but in short-term goals, if it's not going to take place, then another event somewhere else is like a practice race. That makes
Right.
sense. Well, not
So-
a practice race, but
Tim, could we have something set in place whereby on the 31st of July, so I'm just off the top of my head, but let's say this weekend we all go out and we set a 200-meter race distance and time, a 500 and a 2K, whatever it is, and then say by the 31st of July as a team, in order to then take that to the next level to springboard, we need to improve that by 5%, 10%, 1%, whatever it is. So we actually have some sort of tangible goal that we're all paddling for over this period of time, so that when the decision is made, we can then take that point where we're at to then sort of like finesse it. And you might say, okay, well, look, guys, you've done well. You've got to that point. Now, in order to compete with the world, you need to take it to this point. I'd personally like to have us as a group, go balls deep, see what we can do over 200 meters and set that as our benchmark. And then maybe every 2 or 3 weeks we'll work towards beating that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, benchmarking is absolutely part of it. I mean, and if you just changed what Catherine said from the end point being the Worlds to the end point being a high level international competition, it's the same thing, isn't it? Yeah, hopefully it'll be the World Championships, but it's a distinct possibility that the World Championships may not be for another year. Because what's happening at the moment, and for what it's worth, I thought it was quite ridiculous trying to schedule a Europeans and a World Championship in the same year, because you're going to split your paddler base from the outset, and then next year you've got the World Club Crew Championships, and yeah, you're not going to, these things aren't going to keep stacking up. So one year you've got 6 competitions. At some stage they've got to say, right, well, we've lost the 30th anniversary of the World Championships, we've lost the 30th anniversary of the Euros, we have to, it's COVID, there's nothing we can do about it. We've got to start afresh at some point and say, right, let's move it forward. Okay, we've missed that 2-year cycle owing to COVID. Let's just move the whole thing forward to there, because you can't expect people to do 3 and 4 competitions a year. Well, maybe some senior Bs, senior Cs, but juniors, premiers, not going to happen. So okay. I mean, yes, you can do anything you want, but what I'm interested in is hearing from you rather than just saying we're going to do this, that, and the other. The chances are we're going to end up at the same place anyway. Okay, so benchmarking, yes. Any other stuff? I'm assuming you like the whole concept of the one-to-one program. Yeah, I've got to say, nowhere. I've introduced a number at different places, and I don't know why more people don't do them. Because it's all about you improving as an athlete, isn't it? And you get a great additional value. You get some personal feedback from the coach, rather than the coach just talking to the boat, and it's fantastic. And it is. It takes a bit of buy-in, but that's by the by. We're early days. Okay, so benchmarking, continuation, enhancement of the one-to-one program. What else would you like to see over the next few months?
I think it would at some point soon, or at some point, locking in a bit more specifically in positions in the pack. You know, I totally agree with the value, you know, certainly for myself. Is that my disturbance? Yeah.
If you're not talking, sorry, Heidi, if you're not talking, could you just stick yourself on mute? Because we just got a little bit of feedback. So just unmute yourself, please. I'll mute myself as well, so I can.
Yeah, so I totally agree. You know, for myself, I spend time at the front, I spend time in the back, and you know, occasionally some time in the middle, and I'm finding value from that. But at some point, I think it would be useful for us to begin to blend, knowing which positions or which side, you know, we're best placed to work together as a team.
Absolutely. I mean, part of the next stage on, I think I might have mentioned it at some stage, the next stage on from the one-to-one program is part of the blending. So you end up with 1-to-1, then you pair seat pairs. So say, for example, in the boat, Abigail and Heidi May, you're a seat pair. And the way I work with, this is just the way I do it, I work with 3 or 4, more likely, stroke seats, 1, 2, 3, and 7. So, for example, yeah, your first choice of stroke seat might be Heidi May and Abby, yeah. But then you can also work them in 1, 2, or 3 to change the pitch of the boat, the trim of the boat, and actually run them in seat 7 as well as an enforcer, reinforcer, and give them a bit of a rest, frankly, from doing the stroke. So you see what I mean? So the way I would do it, and this is just me and others as well, maybe, is you work out, you do your 1-to-1 program, you then blend the 2s, and then you blend the front of the boat, the middle of the boat, and the back of the boat, and really you can move around within that, but with the exception of the stroke seat in number 7 or the reinforcer seat, then that process should develop out of it. But even if, I mean, you can't necessarily do it all together, but blending, we can, yeah, fine, absolutely, and that's part of that process. Okay.
Sorry.
Yes.
The only thing at the moment, the problem with that is that we're sitting staggered.
Ah, right.
So that's a bit of a tough one. And, you know, if I could get all the girls one session in or a couple of sessions separate from the guys and run sessions with just the girls to see who goes where, then that's great. But at the moment, you know, again, because we're sitting staggered, or we try to anyway, unless we have an extra here and there, it's kind of hard to be doing that at the moment. But I think at the end of the day, I myself sort of know already where people are good in sitting and who I can shift to where. It's just going to be at the end of the day something for Tim to see who works where best. And
Okay.
we have to discuss that properly. Or
hold that thought, because I'm going to come back to the barriers, to the hurdles.
Yeah.
I was just going to say that the other thing as well is sometimes we don't have everybody at training. So if you've got 3 people missing from the left, how are we going to train? So there is that to work through as well. You're on mute.
Okay.
Tim, you're still on mute. Still on mute.
You're on mute.
Tim, you're on mute.
I'll say all that again. I've said some fantastic stuff there. Right, so all I'm saying basically is I'm going to come back to the barriers in a minute. We've got benchmarking, we've got 1-to-1, we've got blending. What else? What else do you want to be doing? So you have a wand now. You can decide what you're going to do. You're going to determine the training between now and July. What else do you think we need to be doing?
I think we need to keep on doing, you know, for me, I want to end at the end of July in the best shape I possibly can. And from there, just keep improving. So I think everything that we're doing in terms of the rows, as much as I hate them, I think we still need to be doing them. You know, and the gym work, for me, we just carry on as we are, aiming every week to get a little bit fitter, a little bit stronger, and keep, it's the consistency over time that's going to bring the results. So, you know, and I know we have to factor in, you know, I took the last 2 weeks a little bit lighter because I was just feeling really tired, and I feel much better for it. So we've got to kind of balance that in, because we are talking about a long duration. Yeah. But I just think we keep going. I think we need some social nights as well, with, you know, to kind of pull together, as, you know, to keep the cohesion of the team, so that we can kind of support each other if, you know, it's feeling like this, you know, we're just never going to get there.
It's a good point, actually, because not weird. I mean, this time of year, on a normal year, I'm not sure what a normal year is anymore now, but on a normal year, then we'd get together at weekends, and the purpose of doing the weekends, it minimises the travel, so people, you know, don't turn up in the morning and do a training and then push off. So we build in that social meal, that social to get together, and don't have to rush off after. So okay, once again, social events. It's illegal for me to attend them at the moment, but that we'll get over that. But yeah, okay. What else? What else that we're not doing at the moment that you think would work?
can you give us some options of what we could be doing that we don't know we're not doing, if that makes sense?
Are you, I mean, are you, oh, I think you've got a pretty good program, actually, not because I'm involved in it, but in terms of the structure of it and how it progresses. But the question for you is, are you happy with the variety of the training? Do you understand what we're asking you to do and where we're going with it? Yeah. Even though I might talk around in circles every now and again. Are you generally happy with the idea that we're training on the water and have the opportunity to discuss stuff on the Zoom sessions? And I appreciate not everyone can make every session, but we've got that option. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Because what I don't want to do is create too much. You know, we've got to sustain what we're doing. Okay, fine. If you think of any more stuff, then come straight in. But last, before I pause,
is there a possibility that maybe we need to start looking at doing sort of like 3 sessions a week rather than 2 sessions a week?
Or maybe an off the boat training session, you know, like.
Yeah, like an off the boat training session would work just as well as an on the boat training session. Something that involves us working together as a unit. That would be a great option, or a third on the boat training session, because I just feel like you look at some of the teams that have been successful in the past. One of the reasons they've been successful is because they've paddled a lot together, you know, normally years. Now, obviously, we're only going to be, you know, 1 year together paddling. So maybe we need a little bit more just time in the boat, just together, just paddling, you know, just some random long distance paddles or, you know, something along those lines.
What's the aim?
Understanding each other, in all honesty, and actually just spending time in the boat paddling, not, you know, maybe you know, not something, maybe have a session that isn't as much a coaching session, more just a let's go out and have a bloody long paddle together. Or do you know what I mean? Actually, just one of the paddles that most influenced me when I was with the Diggers, that brought me part of the Diggers, was we did a paddle around the world. So it was part of the can't remember, it was something, but it was a stupidly long paddle. It was like 2.5 hours or something like that, and obviously we were doing it, you know 1 minute on, all that sort of stuff. But I really felt like as a unit at the end of that, we were paddling really well together. We were in time, everything was in sync, and I just felt like at that point I was part of the team. And I'm not sure that we have that yet as a unit within the Team GB. We're all maybe, you know, okay paddlers, but I don't think we've gelled together as a team yet in the, you know, actually paddling together. Maybe that's because we only got 10 in the boat. I don't know.
Okay, so what we're talking about is a team building, part of the blending piece, a team building activity, which could be paddling, it could be something else, it could be social.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'd personally prefer to have like a time, you know, once a week on a whatever night it is that we all meet up at the running track and go for a run together or something. Do you know what I mean? But whatever it is, it doesn't matter. But just something that we can all do together, you know.
what's the? I mean, no. Why should I object to something like that? I mean, what are the downsides to that? Anyone thinking? I mean, obviously, it's another session for this paddling group, GB paddling group. Have you got, bearing in mind that we reduced what we're doing a little bit because of the amount of time we're doing it? So have people got the time to do that?
Well, it depends on whether the club training reduces now coming into the hotter months. I think if we were to drop a session in the club training, then it could be doable. But it's a fairly packed week, I think, at the moment, with club training and with GB for me, and plus with 2 kids and a full-time job. But yeah.
I think group sessions are a good idea, and getting together, either training off the boat or on the boat is great. But it's a balance between club training, GB training, the gym stuff, the rowing machine, HIIT classes, whatever anybody else is doing. And some of us are probably doing 8, 9, maybe 10 sessions a week already. So it's hard to fit something in. So it's a case of balancing your own workouts and your own training to fit something else in.
Tim, you're on mute again.
Keep forgetting to mute. The other thing, of course, is that rest and recuperation and recovery is quite a key part of training. So it's all we're all doing 10, 11, 12, whatever it's going to be, quality sessions a week. But if you're not resting, then it becomes a law of diminishing returns, doesn't it? But very worthwhile exploring that, because if the other thing is to what sort of turnout. So if you're getting 10 in the boat, you're limited by that. And how many in the current squad? We've just taken another person. Is it still 16, or have we've gained one? Oh.
Regulars, I think regulars we have about 12.
Right. How about the irregulars?
1 or 2.
Oh, right.
Probably.
Okay. So
here's a suggestion for something like that, James. I'm quite happy, but it all depends. And I know I've done it in the past, which has really been quite nice. I'm quite happy to take a Saturday evening session away, depending on, and doing it on a Thursday after work, where we go for a nice sunset paddle, whatever it is, to wherever. We take the boat, put it away at Riva. We can book a table or two and then have dinner and drinks thereafter. And that way you're not giving up any other time of your weekend. And then you can actually, for a change, maybe have a weekend off and do some family stuff if you wanted to or not.
I would really struggle doing the Thursdays because I don't finish work until 7 o'clock.
Yeah, there's you and Paula that would have that issue. Again, not everybody would be able to do that, but it's an option that I've just put out there, something to think about if that is something that James is sort of looking at doing, depending on, obviously it has to work for majority, but just putting it out.
I was just making a suggestion, it's like I say, it was that, that longer session in the boat that really helped me become a good part of the unit,
Yeah.
Well, perhaps you do that now and then, that you don't, it's not that you're changing the Saturday paddle to a Thursday all the time. Maybe you do both.
Yeah, you could do that. And I mean, for those that do work, could always join after for dinner and drinks as well. Whichever. We can discuss it, I think. I'm open to it.
I think it's a great idea, however, given the limitation on time, that the purpose really, what I'm trying to drive at is making the best use of what we've got. And if we're saying that we can always make best use of increasing team and team blending and that sort of stuff, then we can either introduce another session or actually re-look at what we're doing. And as Nikki's suggesting there, reconfigure some of the sessions so we don't lose any of the good points, but we maybe extend, maybe say do less sessions but longer sessions. I don't know. Or as Nikki points out there, maybe you do your regular 2 sessions a week, and then every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, you have a longer, more aerobic paddle with a social at the end of it. You see what I mean? Those sort of things, just so, because what I'm really keen on people doing is, which you've got a good spirit there already, is people coming along and come the end of July. I'm not talking about the end of the squad. At the end of July, the end of this phase, people say, actually, this is really worthwhile doing, right? And if you think of the worst case scenario, at the end of July, there is no more GB, right? This is worst case. I don't think this is going to happen, but people look at that section and say, right, we really maximize the benefit out of that. The chances are, and I know and you're going to go on to something from there. So there's no danger of it disappearing down a rabbit hole or something. But how do we get the best out of the time we've got? Because that's, so we're saying the end of the next phase or the end of the beginning or whatever is the 31st of July, but we want to be in a position to springboard on to the next stage at that point. That's what we're saying, really. So the 2 or 3 or whatever who are less good attenders, how do we, because their non-attendance is going to impact on us, isn't it? Or you actually, because it doesn't impact on me because I can't get there at all. But so how do we get these people to come along? Any thoughts?
Have a minimum attendance. If you don't attend 80% of all the training sessions in 1 month, you get kicked off the team.
Will that work?
I think it's difficult for us to say that because we're the ones that show up. So we are the regulars, we're the committed ones. So it's difficult to say what's going to work or what isn't going to work for the people who aren't committed to it.
Although I'm not saying that in terms of, because you know the personalities rather than I don't. I know you in as much as I know you from meeting you on Zoom, but the people who don't turn up to the training sessions and don't turn up to the meeting, I have absolutely no idea even what they look like. So that was more of a question in relation to how do you think the people you know that I don't, we could tempt them to turn up more regular? That's the question, really.
Well, I'm one of those ones that struggles to meet 2 sessions a week. I can only do the Saturdays because I work until 7 o'clock most nights during the week, so I can't make it.
Okay, so maybe looking at, would it suit people to not vary the sessions over a cycle? So at the moment you're doing Tuesday and Saturday, maybe doing Tuesday and Saturday for the half of it, and then Tuesday and another session. You see what I mean? So you're varying the time so you can capture most people. Attract most people.
Yeah, no, I think that's worth looking at. I know Rachel, you just spoke then, but you're not in that box of not coming. You know what I mean? I mean, we've got. I don't know if. So, for example, I'll say now, I don't know if Jimmy's emailed you, but Jimmy had he had a lack of desire. If somebody's not got desire, you can't change it.
Yeah.
So you might as well just drop those. There's somebody else who has got desire, but there's other issues. So we're hoping that over time, so there's not a lot we can do, but somebody's got the desire to do it, but need to sort some things out. Can't go into details on that, but they need to sort things out. You know.
Okay. Yeah. If it's a specific, yeah.
I think we've only got a couple on that. I think we've now got rid of the, let's say, I would think, Nikki, I think we've now got rid of, let's say, the people who haven't got the desire. Right. So we've only got a very, very small number.
Yeah.
Okay, so if it's a specific issue that's got a finite, then great. Yeah, that's a different. I was thinking about more in terms of general motivation of what you tend to get on, not so much here, but on other squads I've done, you'll get people who are on the email list and want to stay on the email list, but you never actually see them. What's the point? That sort of situation. So if that's a very small number, that's the sort of people I was talking about trying to motivate. Okay. Any other thoughts? Any other problems that you can think of that will stop us doing any of that benchmarking or one-to-one? There seems to be a lot of enthusiasm towards it. Maybe need to explain it a little bit more and how it fits in, but we can certainly do that, and we have those conversations regularly anyway. But any other observations about things that are missing or things that we could do that you would get the best benefit for you? So just think a bit selfishly, really. What I want to get out of this. Because the chances are, if you're thinking it, then somebody else will be.
I feel I'm trying to find things that are wrong, and actually, that's not how for me, it's not a chore at all. It couldn't be more enjoyable.
Oh, right. Okay, fine.
So I'm like working hard to try and find something that could be better. But I think, all things considered, we're doing a phenomenal job of pulling a group of people from different teams together, training regularly and making improvements. I don't know how others feel, but that's certainly, my experience of what we're doing.
Yeah, I agree, Heidi, and I think it's hard to say this could be better, or we're doing this wrong, because it's just going so well how I feel. Okay, we've got a few people who, like Rachel, unfortunately can't make it on a Tuesday evening, but she's there every Saturday, and she's on the call every Wednesday, so that everyone is committed to it. So I think it's just working really well.
Okay, fine. Part of the reason I'm asking it is because I asked for some feedback from some of you, and a number of you, not a great number, said to me, can we get the opportunity to say what we want to do? So I'm not suggesting there's anything wrong with it. In fact, what the setup you've got there sounds really good. But we want to make you aware that if you're happy, I mean, it's not just a case of us, and this is not Nikki's style, just to dictate stuff. You have an input into it, and if you don't feel you have an input into it, then you do. And it really is. It's not my squad, it's not Nikki's squad, it's your squad. It just happens to be the British squad as well. Yeah. But I'm not suggesting there has to be anything wrong with it. But there's always worthwhile looking at things and saying, well, how can it be even better? Yeah, that's all. That's all.
I think improvements, so when we're doing like baseline stuff, and you actually see us coming together as a team, because it's fine just going out and then paddling and then just looking at like kind of photos, but when you've got actual data, or and you see that the speed of the boats coming up, or in a normal session we've gone from doing 6K on the first one where we felt absolutely exhausted to increasing the amount that we do in the sessions, if that makes sense. So actually seeing physical progression, it feels good, and it feels like we're working together as a team and improving. Yeah. So
okay, well, we sort of have those conversations anyway, so I'm not in the dark about what you're doing and how you're improving. But you see, I'm just trying to get to the stage where we're getting the best out of it for you, and you're happy with what's going on, and it sounds like you're fairly happy. So don't labour that too much. But okay, so we can think about different timings of sessions if it suits, or socials, that sort of stuff, or stuff in terms of more blending, and actually I think enhancing the one-to-one program as well, which is what we want to do anyway, right? So you're happy with that? Yeah. Okay, fine.
Tim, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to drop off. I've got a work call, but
okay.
I'll catch the rest on the recording. Thank you. Thanks all.
I just want to cover a few. So fine. No worries with that at all. Tom, any thoughts from you?
Sorry, I'm unmuted. No, I'm quite happy. I have a tendency to oversimplify things, but I think if it's not broke, don't fix it. It's going well. So let's just keep cracking on, getting better and faster. And whether it's on or off for me in July is not a decision, because the worst thing you do now is take your foot off the gas. So you don't even deal with that until that decision's made. Let's keep cracking on and on and on. And then if it is a no, then make a plan. But for now, we should be going 100% and getting stronger and faster.
Okay. Is that the consensus? That sounds like a reasonable way to round off that one. Okay, right, no problem, no problem. But you see the point of asking the question, because you are unique in some ways, because I've had the same conversation in other places, and it's really, really, really hard to get people even get in a boat and get motivated, that sort of thing. So, but what's noticeable is there's a very different vibe, very different feeling around the Dubai paddlers, because you're able to paddle dragon boats, and that's not. But anyway, okay. Last little bit. Here's a paddle. Lat engagement. Last little bit. When you hear me talking about lat engagement, hear Nikki talking about lat engagement, what are we talking about? It's a big muscle at the back, but on this pushing down at the top, how do you get lat engagement? What does it mean, and how do you get it? What all the stuff I've been talking about, Nikki's been talking about, what does it mean? What does it mean to you? How do you achieve it?
Lifting your inboard arm up, placing it above the top, pushing down so you don't have your elbow below the handle of the blade. So you actually, as you're pushing down, you're engaging the muscles as you're pulling back.
Right. So bearing in mind your lat, we've mentioned it, inserts into your arm, doesn't it? So if you're trying to paddle down here, you're not engaging the top part of that muscle. You might be engaging it at the bottom as you're pulling with the core, driving with the leg, but there's some benefit to be had by engaging it up here as well, yeah? In the same way that if you're doing a volleyball spike, you're pushing down with your back muscle as well as your shoulder and your arm, yeah? Fine. But there might be some confusion about the angle of entry. I don't mean the 45-degree angle of entry there, but the angle of entry from the front. So some of you, when you paddle at the moment, and we need to sort of discuss it a little bit, but for whatever reason, have a tendency to come in, you come over and you go to there straight away. Yeah. Now, what I'm suggesting, or you sort of come there and then drive backwards. So the first entry point, it goes in 90 degrees. You see a lot of outrigger paddlers, because a lot of them just, they actually paddle like this, at that sort of angle. And the blade stays at that angle. Okay, they are pulling with the lats, but it's less shoulders, it's a shorter stroke, and they just do a little bit of leg drive, but mainly it's core of derotation. And then there's another where you're coming in at a very, very slight angle. And then when the blade is fully buried, then it's coming back perpendicular to the water, if you like, parallel to the center line of the boat. So what's the difference? When we talk about how do you think we can best get that engagement up here? Let me suggest something, and you'll probably need to try this when you've got a paddle in your hand. What I've got, okay, this is a broken paddle. Get yourself in a paddle, and that's resting on a seat. You could be standing up. Two hands, push down into the seat with the paddle, yeah? If you push down, you can trace where the lat goes. A big muscle here, you can trace where it feeds into the upper arm. There, yeah? And if you just push down like that, that is lat engagement. If I just push down with both hands, not with the arms bent, arms sort of soft, almost straight, pushing down, I can feel that in my back, yeah? So when you're pushing down, that's the feeling you want. Are you with me so far? Right. So once you've got the feeling, I can feel that, yeah, I can feel that there, I can feel, in fact, when I feel it there, I can feel that massive lat in my back bulge. Can you see that? That was a joke, but I can feel it. As I push down, I can feel how it engages all the way into there. So that's the feeling I want. So when I transfer to holding the paddle, when I'm pushing down, I'm looking for that same feeling. So when I'm powering up in a dragon boat or an outrigger, when I'm pushing down, that's what I'm feeling for. Okay? Yes? Yeah. So if I'm pushing down, I can feel that. If I let this track across too far, there comes a point at which, right, it's engaged there. It's not engaged there. So when I've got a slight angle, I've got lat engagement there. I can feel it. If I keep pressing down, I'll just track it across to there. It comes off. You need to probably try it or get somebody to stand behind you. Push down, yeah. And at one point, that connection point becomes soft. And it becomes soft when I'm too vertical. Yeah? Are you following what I'm saying?
Can you just do it from the side view? Because I'm wondering whether you're meaning, because I know with me, if I open up too much, it makes the joint too flexible. There's a kind of
with me, and I don't think I'm that exceptional, if I'm pushing down there, I've got engagement there, and if I let it come across too vertical, then I lose that firmness there.
okay.
And the problem that I see is that when people come in too vertical, they get a nice big setup, they come across and they basically lose the top firmness in the muscle there, or the engagement. So by coming over too fast, they get the engagement with the leg drive and the core pull. But I like people just to sort of get the feeling of keeping that top hand push down, that firmness in the top of the muscle, to drive it into the water, and then when it comes back, then it's coming back vertical, because I'm using less top hand push down as it's coming back, and more the lat on the left side, or the left side of the lat. So I'm using the same muscle in a different way. So people do a nice setup, and then the firmness, they destroy it by coming over too far too soon.
So Tim, are you sort of saying, so where we enter the blade in at the 45-degree angle, we need to be a little bit more sort of like, let's call it outside of the boat.
Right. The difference
as the blade gets buried, that's when we need to be a little bit more vertical to the boat, or horizontal to the boat. Is that what you're saying?
Let me demonstrate it. So what I don't want you to do is that. What I don't want you to do is that. What I do want you to do is that, and then it tracks back vertical.
So it's almost the 45-degree when you're pushing it down into the water. At that point, it's not 100% vertical.
Yes, the 45-degree there is always the same. Yeah, that stays the same. Bottom hand in front of top hand. What you often see is people, because they want the paddle to track back vertical, they come over too vertical too soon, and actually introduce a strain into your side there. Do you follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think it would be useful for us to have some video from the front, actually, so that we can see that angle, to get the visual as to whether we're doing it right or wrong.
Okay.
I think I know what you mean now about being too far over.
The thinking is, if by coming over here too far, you've got a strain in your side, then you're not going to get the most power out of it. And I get what people are trying to do. They're trying to come across and get a nice setup. But by overemphasizing it too soon, then you're actually taking power off, rather than just by leaving a very slight angle. They keep a nice loose setup, they can bury it, and then when it's fully buried and the paddle's under load, then it's coming back perpendicular. It's a subtle difference, but one is more powerful than the other. Yeah. Do you get what I mean? Because I mean, a lot of the lads in the boat at the moment, and it's still a powerful stroke. It's trying to get a little bit more bang for your buck, a little bit more positive, definite push down, and then a pull back. So you've got the pull back, but you're just coming across a bit. I think you're coming across a bit too far, a bit too soon. That's all. Yeah. But that exercise of pushing down there, if you want to know what you're going to feel, just get that or pole or paddle, push down with it, and you can feel that engagement. But what you want to do is when you're pushing the paddle down into the water, that's the feeling you want. So just two hands, keep the pressure down, switch to one hand, still feel, and when you're pushing down with the paddle, that's what you're feeling for there. And if you can't feel it, or that's replaced, instead of firm muscle, that's replaced by strain, then you're pushing over too far. That's the point. Yeah. Can you try that for me? We'll get some video. I'll try and get over the GoPro and show you what I mean. But it's not a sweep stroke. I'm not suggesting you paddle sweep stroke. It's just that initial entry, plant it, keep it open, keep it engaged. Because people say, well, if I come across too far, and I've told people that your lat is not engaged, because if you do the exercise and come across, one is firm, and when I get to there, it's no longer firm, which means I'm not engaging that muscle or the top part of it. That's just something to try and see if it makes a difference. I'll be surprised if it didn't, but I'm interested in any feedback you got from there, because it's about trying to use that top part of the muscle the best effect. Nikki, any thoughts on that? You may talk about that sort of stuff already, I don't know.
No, I do. Interestingly enough, somebody the other day went and kind of, and I know people have almost been taught to kind of paddle under the boat, which is not where you want to be at all. You don't want to paddle under the boat. So yeah, that's all I have to say to that part. But yes, definitely you have to feel your lats engage. Yeah.
Does anybody else, have you ever done this where people paddle and they overemphasize? And do you know where that comes from? It's nonsense. It is pure nonsense. But do you know where it comes from? It comes from the idea that if you overdo something, then when you get a bit tired, you'll do it correctly. Which if you just say it like that is total tosh, isn't it? Just learn to do it properly and learn to do it consistently properly. And what we're trying to do here is give you a good technique and then extend the period that you can work under load, rather than saying, I want you to paddle like that, so I'm going to teach you to paddle like that, so when you get tired, you'll do it properly. It's a bit like saying, put your arm right up here when you paddle, because eventually you'll drop down to there. Well, it's actually just teaching you incorrect techniques from the outset. So that's it, and we'll try and get some video. Well, I might actually have some to think about it. Trying to think of the last stuff I've got from head on, but it's just like I say, it's not overextended. It's just a very slight angle, just to keep the muscle engaged. Drop it, load it, and then it comes back. When it comes back, you're driving with the leg, pushing with the core, pulling with the core, and it comes back perpendicular. So very last point, just to clarify something from last week, timing of the catch. I'm talking about pushing down with the top hand, pulling with the core, the derotation, and driving with the leg. When do they occur? Do they occur in succession, in parallel, in tandem, all together? Never? What's your thought about it? So, Chrissy, what do you think? Should it happen? Do you do the leg first and then a bit of top hand, or?
So for me, I think the top hand is first because you've got to get the blade in the water. So once your blade is buried, then the pressure and the derotation and the legs kick in. Right. When I'm saying the pressure from the top hand, it's once the blade is buried, then I think the derotation and the legs and the power all kick in together.
Okay. Any other things? So is it a two-part catch? Is it a drop and drive? Is it a power down and power back?
Lock and load. The catch and they catch what you keep what you catch.
So lock and that's not quite what you said. Yes, yeah, I think lock and load is a great term, by the way. So you're talking about locating the paddle and then applying the pressure. Yeah. Yeah. Any other thoughts?
Because if you apply the pressure as your paddle's going in, you're missing. For me, I'm feeling I'm missing the catch because there might only be an inch of my paddle in the water as I'm trying to drive back. I think it needs to be in before I drive back. But
okay. No, hold that thought. I like that thought, by the way. But okay, any other thoughts on that? Heidi May, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I agree exactly with what Chris is saying. And for me, I guess you're going to get the better if you have all three things happening at the same time to maximize the power output than having them at different times. Otherwise, it's all kind of, it's just not fluid.
Yeah. Tom, thoughts?
Well, the theory, I just don't know that in practice you can actually do that. Because if you think of race conditions and the speed, I don't actually know it's possible to have zero on the rotation, the sit up, while the paddle goes in. It's the same as the rower. Everyone says legs, then back, then arms. In theory, you activate all three at the same time, but you try and keep 90% of the legs to start and then sit up and arms. And I think that's the same when you're dragon boating. When you're going at top speed, it's impossible to get the paddle all the way in and then with zero of the others before you start pulling back. But I might be wrong.
No, it's not. It's not. It's very possible. It takes discipline, it takes training. The problem with it is, I'll get one more just to round off before I finish. One more. Any other thoughts on that? James or Catherine or Michelle or Jenny? Time of the catch? Right. Time of the catch should be the same time. Chrissy's term, lock and load, is exactly what you're looking for. You're pushing it down to locate the blade in the water. Unlike a kayak paddle, we mentioned this before, you get no drive off the tip of the blade. With a wing-shaped paddle, you do. With a dragon boat paddle, you've got to get it fully in the water and then apply the pressure to the water. And this is Tom's point to a certain extent. Call it youthful exuberance, call it whatever you want. There's always a tendency that people start their drive phase too high. So they're pushing down forcefully and then driving back. So they've got an L-shaped stroke. What you want to do is get it in the water, engaged, and then pull back. So you're still maintaining that top hand pressure. So what you're trying to do is time the catch at the same time. Yeah, that's the point. And yes, it takes a bit of but what's possible from what I've seen so far is it's just one thing really just to train out of you. And the best drill that I can think of for that is stuff like the swan drill, stuff like the front end drill, just to get used to the idea that you locate it, then you drop it, and then you drive back together. It's not a smash down and grab. It's a lock and load, not a smash and another smash. That's it. That's it, basically. Okay, we're going to go through the one-to-one videos, and we're going to probably get some more as well, and then start feeding that in at a greater rate of knots. But if you don't understand anything that we're asking you to do at any point, ask the question, yeah? Because if you don't understand it, then we're not explaining it properly. Simple as that, yeah? Okay, that's it. That's all I've got to say. Too much talking for me again. Catherine, any points? Any points?
No, all good.
Do you understand what we're trying to get to?
Yeah.
So that, no, not too much, just nice and sufficient, relaxed, but not overdoing it. And then get it in, then get it on. Okay. Chrissy, Paul? Okay. Heidi, May? Rachel? Kat? Tom? Good. James?
All good.
Sociable. So it's more social for James. It's good. Nikki?
All good.
We'll have another quick chat about the sessions and how we'll do, but in the light of that, but it's pretty much situation normal with a bit more enhancement on the, yeah, it's fine. Great. And Michelle?
All good.
Okay, and last but not least, Jenny? Okay, all done. Thank you for your time. Like I say, really important. Thank you for your comments, and you're happy carrying on, and I'm very happy carrying on, and then we'll just see what July brings when it brings it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Enough. Thank you very much. Have a good evening. See you soon.
Thanks, Tim.
Right.
Bye.
Thank you.